Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on True Story FM. I'm Pete Wright, and I am here bright and early this fine morning with Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, Pete Wright. Hello, everyone.
You doing okay?
Yeah, doing great.
We were supposed to be talking this morning, and we did all the stuff. I was so ahead. I'm never this far ahead, where I posted the live stream link a whole day early yesterday because we were getting up early this morning and not our normal time.
Oh, that's right. You were being proactive.
Oh, I never do that. I never do that stuff. I was up last night. I made the graphics. I did everything for this episode, wrote up all the everythings. And I mean, not 10 minutes after I send everything out to everybody, we get word from our dear guest that she's had a family emergency and is not going to be able to make it to the show. And so we pivot. So,
well, I have to say, my first reaction was, okay, I don't have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, no, you got to get up at 6.
Pete's like, hey, we're going on.
Yeah, I can't record now in the afternoon. I made plans. I got other stuff going on, so we can't go back. But so we sent all that over. The most important thing is that our thoughts are with our guest, Sonal, who will be on the show another time, and I hope that her family situation resolves positively in this time when medical stuff is everywhere.
I know, right? Yeah. Well, and she is going to reschedule, so that will be good. Yeah. We'll hopefully have her on maybe even next week. Who knows?
Yes, that's our hope. So we'll see. We'll see what we can move around. We may be up again at 6 in the morning talking to India next week.
I've come to terms with that now.
That's right. We embrace it.
I've done it once. I can do it again.
You can do it again. That's right. I am. So that's the first thing. Second thing is we pivot. We've got a whole new thing to talk about today. We're going to talk a little bit about perseveration and what it means to build the skills required to say, hey, move on. Hope that some of you will relate to this because it's pretty central to my experience and trying to put my finger on what we could do to move through stuff that sticks to us. Before we do that, head over to takecontroladhd.com. You can get to know us a little bit better. You can listen to the show there on the website or subscribe to our mailing list, and we'll send you an email each time a new episode is released. Connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at Take Control ADHD. And if this show has ever touched you or helped you make a change in your life for the better, if you've ever found you understand your relationship with ADHD in a new way, we invite you to consider supporting the show directly through Patreon. Patreon is listener-supported podcasting. With a few dollars a month, you can help guarantee that we continue to grow the show, add new features, invest more heavily in our community. You can visit patreon.com/the ADHD to learn more. You can get access to our live streaming recording sessions, which is always a fun time. Even when it's at 7 in the morning, you get early access to all of our releases as they are produced by yours truly. You get those early before they drop in Apple Podcasts and the various podcast directories. We sure appreciate all of you. We're working toward a couple of new goals for 2021. The first is hopefully coming very soon, which is our reference library built in Coda database, allowing you to see all the links and references we've ever made in this show, all lovingly touched and refreshed by our very own at Discord Mom. And Melissa's done a ton of work to bring all those resources together. And the second is a new members-only podcast. We're very excited to do our first spin-off show. So anyhow, it's going to be a lot of fun, and hope that is provocative to some of you out there. A new spin-off podcast for members only. It's going to be fun. So there you go, patreon.com/the ADHD podcast to learn more. Thanks, everybody. Nikki, move on.
Okay.
I'm telling you,
Do you ever watch
I've been
Saturday
thinking a lot
Night
about this. Yes.
And have you ever watched Pete Davidson do his? Okay.
I'm sure that's crossed my path. These days I don't watch like the whole show. I watch it in clips because I don't stay up that late.
Right. Yeah. It's really funny. So the whole time somebody will be talking to him and he'll just be like, okay.
That's, you know what? That's exactly what That's exactly what the show is about.
That's what it reminds me of.
So
when you said to move on, great. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, totally. So it got me thinking because of my dog. Can I tell you my dog story?
Yeah. I hope it's not sad though. I don't like I don't like sad dog stories.
No. Okay. He's a jerk. He's a jerk.
Oh, he is not. He's so cute.
Sometimes he eats poo and he's a jerk. Look, so there I was doing my dog walk duty, and it was rainy. It rains a lot here, right? And so everything's soggy. So I'm walking, and he's not. He's not well trained. I mean, he's a terrible intern, and he is rude on paths when we go walking. If there are other dogs and chaos and all kinds of things, he goes berserk and barks a lot and is crazy. And we try to train him. And when I say we try, that's heavy air quotes. We don't try all that hard. I'm sure if we really wanted to train him, we would train him. But it's fine.
You're kind of just going with it.
He's a little dog. He's fine.
Yeah.
But so this has never happened before. I'm walking the dog, and I'm walking down the path, and we run into a big dog who is totally polite, and my dog goes crazy. And I hold him tight on the leash, and everything's fine, and I keep walking, and we get past it. And we're about 75 yards down, and I usually have the leash wrapped around my wrist. And so I let the leash go for a second so I can swap hands, because he ran around me and was noosing my legs with the leash, right? So I had to change hands. But he was pretty chill. I mean, he was just kind of exploring, doing his thing, getting ready to
He wasn't doing it on purpose.
He wasn't doing it on purpose. Right. No, he's maniacal.
I'm going to get him.
It's to hurt me. And so he wraps it around. So I switch. And in the second that I let go, the leash comes off my wrist. He decides, you know what? I am going to go crazy after all. And he starts running. And for the first time in 3 years since we've owned him, he drops out of my hands and he's gone. And he runs like 75 yards before I've made 3 steps, because I am out of shape.
You're not as fast as the little dog.
So I start running, and the nice woman who was walking the big dog doesn't hear me coming, because she's wearing some giant Sony noise-canceling headphones and doesn't hear a thing. So I'm screaming, Gambit, get back here, you dirty piece of you. And I'm running after him. And I'm not really saying those things.
I know.
I'm really
in your
quite
mind,
civil, but I am running, and I'm a big guy, and so I'm kind of running, and it's muddy, and I get to them, and I come barreling on this woman. I mean, I don't run into her, but I imagine when she turns around and sees me running at full speed, that's going to be terrifying. Yes. And I'm trying to make myself smaller so I don't seem terribly intimidated, because she can't say white lightning my dog.
Right,
he is just a blur. And of course my dog stops, because he talks a big game, but he really doesn't know how to do anything with it. And so he eventually stops and is just barking. And I put my foot on the leash, and then I slip, and I fall, and I twist my ankle, and I hurt my other heel, and I've twisted my back and throw it out. And so that is the daily constant reminder of what a jerk my little dog is.
Oh, Pete, that's awful. I wasn't expecting that.
I know.
Wow.
So after my injury, I spent some time just recuperating and complaining heavily. And I realized, oh my goodness, this is one of those examples, isn't it? This is one of those examples where I let one little thing about a lovely little delightful, wonderful puppy stick to me in a way that is negative. Mm-hmm. It's a way that is impacting my other jobs, my other things that I do as a dad and as a husband and as somebody who helps run a house and cook meals and all of that stuff. And it wasn't the fact that I'm limping around the house. That can be solved with, Motrin and, a brace, right? I'm fine. And it took, 36 hours and I'm okay. It's all fine.
Wow.
But what's in here in my head that's keeping me thinking about this event is the thing that I wanted to talk about today. What is it that causes me to perseverate unintentionally and sometimes subconsciously on stuff that is negative and hampers me from getting the work of my world done. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that and the impact of ADHD on that experience. What do you think?
That sounds great. So I have a question for you. So when you're saying you, excuse me, I'll have to edit that. So you're saying that you're continuously in your mind thinking about this experience.
Right.
Okay. And it's negative. And is that because you got hurt? Or like, where is it that where is it a negative experience? I mean, I can guess.
That is no. That's actually a great question, because I think the pain is the thing that keeps you kind of remembering the event. Every time you stand up and take a step, you're like, ow, that hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Or every time you try and twist and your back hurts or cracks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those are the things that are the reminders that keep you from...
That this happened and it hurt.
Yeah, it's just a reminder that it happened and it hurt. But I wonder what it is that's the emotional connection to it, because I love my dog. He's amazing. He's a superhero and a jerk sometimes, but he's a superhero. I love him and I snuggle with him and he's great. And so, but my hunch is that there is some sort of embarrassment, some sort of thing that went on, because it was a very crowded area and I'm running around with this little dog that I can't keep my control of and fall in front of people and all of those things that caused me to offset the blame from myself for acting like a doofus and a jerk in front of my dog and all of these people in a way that was negative. But the other piece is that perseveration is a real thing. And I think that it's associated with, with neurodiversity. It's associated with, our inability to be sort of mentally flexible, right? It is a hard thing to do, to be able to jump from one sort of cognitive context to another when we are in times of stress and anxiety, right? And that's the real piece for me. I realize that when I'm feeling my most anxious, right, I have a real difficulty moving in new directions. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. Right. I mean, because that's what's holding you back. That's what's keeping you stuck from moving on, is that you're and myself, I do this too. You just get stuck in the anxiety piece of it. Well,
I'm curious what your experience is with it then, because you're so on top of stuff.
No.
You don't convey that at all.
Oh gosh, no, I'm not on top of anything. It's a mess here. I thank God for the January purge.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, I find it at night, right? So I'm trying to go to bed and maybe I'll fall asleep, but then I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll just be up for a couple of hours sometimes, because I'm just rethinking whatever it is that caused me anxiety or that I'm worried about. And it can be a number of different things, whatever's triggering it. So, but it is hard to get out of it. And sometimes I'll just have to stop myself and say, okay, I just need to go back to bed. I need to stop thinking about this. It's because it always seems bigger at night than it is in the morning for some reason. So yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I think that's because it's quiet at night.
It's quiet,
right?
Yeah,
right. When it's quiet, when you don't have anything else that's obviously distracting you. I think that rhythm is everything. Perseveration is, quote, repetitive and continuous behavior, speech, or thought that occurs to changes in cognitive skills such as memory, attention, and mental flexibility. And I use the word a lot because it's something I relate to probably a lot. It is often an increased association with any experience of traumatic brain injury or Alzheimer's or aphasia or schizophrenia or Parkinson's, but also ADHD, right? That attention piece is the real deal. And we've already talked about sort of the skills that come with being able to be flexible in how you interpret the world around you, how you read the room. Yeah.
I have my little hand up. I have a question.
Yeah, you're literally raising your hand, but it's your show. So that you can just interrupt me.
Well, I know, but That's rude. And I don't want you to say I'm your rude, angry jerk of a co-host.
I might, by next week, I may still be thinking about it.
Exactly, right. So this is a completely different word, though, than perseverance.
Well, it's the same root, right? To persevere is to continuously kind of move through, keep going. Perseverate is just the negative context of the same word. Like you keep going through negative thought spirals and things. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for me, I think the real nut of it is that stress and anxiety drive perseveration, right? And we are coming off of a high stress, high anxiety week. As we record this, last week was a rough week in our nation. And so we're kind of in the liminal space, the gap between that and whatever comes next, in our political discourse here in the United States. It's confusing and frustrating and hard. And the pandemic is, weighing on all of us around the world as we try to figure out what is going on with vaccines and, what can we do? What can't we do? So there is reason for heightened stress and anxiety. There's justification for it, certainly. Social anxiety also causes us to be unable to read the room. We've talked about this before. Driving, when you find yourself driving a conversation forward, you keep talking about the same stuff long after the topic has changed because you aren't really, you're in your head. You're stressed about the fact that you're actually speaking in front of people, and you just start pedaling and ride it all the way down the hill, and you miss the fact that the road changed, right? And so you're still talking, and everybody else is just watching and waiting because you can't read the room. I know I've done it. You're fixating on projects long after, your stamina indicates that you're not effective anymore. You're still working at 1 a.m. on this project and you're not effective. You're not doing good work. And yet there you are, still plugging away.
That's definitely connected to ADHD.
Right, it's that hyperfocus, right? I think hyperfocus and perseveration can be kissing cousins.
Well, it's hyperfocus, but it's after the focus is gone, right? Because you're saying you're no longer effective. So the way that I'm looking at that is somebody is just going to keep pushing themselves to finish that to-do list or to finish this thing, even though they are probably going to be better off if they just went to bed and did it in the morning or did it later that next day, because when they're fresher and they're more at their best, because they're going to do better work, or they're going to be more focused when they're at their best than when you're just trying so hard to get through it. But there's that pressure of, I've got to get this done. I've got, I wasted my whole day or whatever you're saying to yourself.
Right. Yeah. It's the stress and anxiety, right? That's the language. And in fact, like the way that language works, I think we have to be so careful because it's we talk about limiting language, limiting beliefs, the language of limiting beliefs. We have to be careful because the language we can use for ourselves or on ourselves when we're in this context is probably limiting language, masquerading as positive self-talk, right?
Yeah. Right.
I have to get it done. I know I can get it done. I know I can get this job done, even though I'm exhausted and I can't keep words moving clearly from my head to the page or whatever it is. When we're stuck in this high stress, high anxiety mode, we cannot see straight the tools that are working against us. That attention, the attention part, right, hurts our ability to create intentional mental flexibility under stress. We can't control our ability to redirect, and redirection is exactly what we need. So I feel like those are the things that are working against us. So how do you pivot and
as Ross
get yourself
would say, pivot.
Yeah, pivot.
Pivot.
How do you pivot? When and shake yourself loose, right? This is the thing we talked about at Chad last year in our presentation. What is the thing you need that's going to kick you out of this particular bind of perseveration, when you're in the cycle and you can't say to yourself, God, I've got to move on.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to move on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm stuck. I have to move on.
Very similar to RSD.
Yeah, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
The things that the professionals say is that it's the stuff we talk about all the time. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting enough exercise? Are you drinking too much? Are you eating well? Do you have any sort of mindfulness practice? Right,
Mm-hmm.
like all of those things we talk about a lot. But in this particular case, one sticks out at me, and I'm curious your thoughts on it. Maintaining contact with friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing on that right now?
Connection.
Yeah.
It's good for the soul. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's good for the soul. It's good for the brain,
mm-hmm.
right? And it's good for the brain on a number of different levels. First, there is an energetic and chemical connection, a chemical thing that happens in your body when when you're connected with people that you care about and that you love. But there's also the very practical, like, we need practice talking to one another, right?
Mm.
We need practice engaging with people who care about us and will talk to us about important things, that we don't have to fear, repercussions when we're talking with people about important issues to us. And right now, that's hard to find,
mm-hmm.
especially if you're doing the pandemic lockdown thing and you're stuck in this, with the same faces and the same voices of just your close family, and you've been with them for many, many months now. How well are you reaching out and contacting the people that are important to you outside of your home? How well are you keeping up with with people on FaceTime and Zoom and making those intentional connections with others to keep your brain sharp and to talk through issues that are important to you, so that you can release them from the perseverative cycle.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I just have to say, I think that's one of the benefits of having a Patreon membership, right? When you have Discord, mm-hmm. and you've got people who also have ADHD and understand where you're coming from and understand exactly what you're saying. I think even having a community that are like-minded can make a big difference, because the way that you perceive something could be very similar to somebody else with ADHD without it, but not the same with somebody who doesn't have ADHD, or somebody that's too close to you, right? That I really just want to talk about this, or, this is what I'm struggling with, and you're going to get it. You're going to mm-hmm. understand it.
I think that is a great point. And it was on my mind. We used to hear more. I feel like we went through a process or a period where this was a little bit contagious, where people in the community were reaching out to one another to have, like, on video, like, one-on-one accountability sessions where they would have those connections. And I just want to remind people, you can do that. Reach out to one another and get on video. Using the text community is great, but looking at somebody in the eye as best you can over video.
You really get to know them. Yeah. I mean, I even think about the happy hours that we have every month, seeing people that we see in the Discord community. We see the names, but actually seeing the people and talking to them, it does make a big difference. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, one of the things that will help to shock me out of my perseverative cycle is being able to think about other people mm-hmm. and what mm-hmm. they're doing. And I find myself looking so forward to those happy hours for that very reason, because we get the catch up on the stories. We hear them in their own voices, and we get to share our own stories and the things we're dealing with. And I think about them and I think about their stories between happy hours, right? Mm-hmm. It is important, I think, just as human beings, to have those connections with other people to keep us from perseverating on ourselves.
Well, and I can just imagine, I mean, the connection and the feeling, the inclusiveness of, just being with other people. But I also think it's a great distraction too. I mean, when we're talking about, something that's really bothering you, to be able to, like, I just think of like certain friends that are very lighthearted, and me talking to them would really just lift me up. Right. So it's like really pinpointing who would be the people that would really get you out of it. Like, but I can also tell you there's a couple people that probably would bring me even further down. So I really don't want to make that call at that point. But I mean, I think that, I see what you're saying is that it helps you get out of that, even if you're not even talking about it, but you're just talking about something else, and you're able to switch that focus to something that's more positive, which is what we talked about with joy, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about that joy, the difference between joy and happiness is joy is something that can happen at any time. And it can just be a moment, where happiness feels more like, are you happy? Are you happy all the time? Like, right? It's a burst of excitement for joy. And I think that that's an important thing to remember, is that when you're feeling that way, gratitude, I don't know if they said anything about gratitude, but I would say gratitude and joy are things that you can certainly look at to shift that focus in your mind.
Yeah. The important thing here, and it's the thing we sort of uncovered in our research with the joy conversation, is that these are things that distract you from your current state.
Right. And that's kind of what you need.
Yeah, that's exactly what you need. Something that jars you from the cycle that you're in and puts you in on a new path. And anything we can do to give ourselves that freedom and flexibility, it gives us practice on, that sort of mental agility that we need.
I was just thinking the other day, I was watching a video of these two dogs. They were these two beautiful golden retrievers, and they'd never been in snow before, or at least they hadn't been in that deep of snow before. And so they opened the door, and it was like 3 feet of snow. And I mean, it was the cutest thing watching these two dogs play in the snow and trying to figure out like why it wasn't a solid thing, but I laughed. I mean, I laughed out loud. I showed it to my husband. I was like, look how cute this is. It's those little moments, right? That will definitely get you out of that, whatever stress and anxiety, because this is what I've learned about anxiety is 95% of the time, it is so not in my control. So if I can just let that go and know that this is not in my control, and have enough belief in myself that whatever happens, I'm going to be able to get through it, that, and just keep, that's the positive feedback, right? Not limiting beliefs, just, I know I'm going to be able to get through this. I don't have control over it. Something else that we've been doing between my husband and I, because we have 2 teenagers, and teenagers are not easy human beings. Talk about being jerks sometimes. But you love them unconditionally. But that's something that we've been asking ourselves is, is that our problem?
Yeah.
Is that our problem? Oh, yeah. That definitely puts things in a different perspective, because some of it is our problem. But then other things, nope, has absolutely nothing to do with us. And whatever consequences they get, it's their problem. We'll be here when they fall.
That's right.
But yeah, so anyway, I know that's kind of off subject, but.
No, but I think it is. I think there are a couple of things, and I want to go back to the mindfulness practice, because I kind of blew past this. But we talked about yearly themes last week, maybe the week before. I was in our Q&A episode where we talked about yearly themes. Oh,
that's right. Yes.
And I think I talked about several years ago, my theme was, have fewer strong opinions. Did I talk about that?
Yes, you did. Yes.
Yeah. This goes into it, right? I think moving on is, central to that, to my experience of it, is my ability to free myself from having a strong opinion about it. Right. And so I had to cultivate that by actually putting signs up everywhere that asked me, do you have a strong opinion about this? Right. And just stopping and saying, wait a minute, I don't care. The act of saying I don't care about whatever it is, and practicing saying that, not in a dismissive, sarcastic way, but as a genuine, authentic practice of separating yourself from things you really do care about and things that you care about only because it seems like everybody else cares about it and it should be important, is critical for me. It is so important to be able to say, I don't care. And when clients ask me things and they ask me for my opinion, if I really don't have an opinion, to not be afraid to say, I don't have an opinion. I'll do whatever you want, right?
Right.
For people who, when they pay me for opinions that matter, I don't want to dilute them with opinions that don't, right? If there really is not a reason to care about this, then we can act on taste, right? We can act on preference. It's fine. But that means that when I do care, I know it, right? I know it in my gut, right? I can feel it because I have sifted out all of the other junk. I've sifted out through a daily intentional practice of saying, I don't care.
Right.
I don't care about that thing right now. That thing right in front of me, I don't care. Do what you want. It's okay. And that's been huge in my ability to kind of create a practice around breaking those cycles of things that I do and don't care about. And I notice when things like the dog, let's just circle all the way back to my dog experience. When things like that happen and I find I'm still thinking about it 3 days later, I know I'm falling out of practice for whatever reason, pandemic, politics, whatever, I'm falling out of practice and I need to be put back on the rails.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's why we're talking about it today.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
What do you think? Is that helpful? Yeah?
Good job, Pete,
I hope so.
For putting this together in last minute.
This is why we podcast, Nikki Kinzer. It's for our introspective experience of the world.
Of the dogs
so I hope that
own.
helps somebody else. Oh, the dogs and the ridiculous. He's not set. He's never running for office. Let's just say that. So this has been great. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out and joining us for this pivot, this last minute pivot. And again, we'll get back on track and we'll let you know as soon as we have that rescheduled with Sonal. It's going to be a great conversation and she's a fantastic person. So we look forward to getting that rescheduled. Thank you for downloading and listening to the show. Thank you for your time and attention. Don't forget, if you have something to contribute to the conversation, jump over to the Show Talk channel in our Discord server and you can join us right there by becoming a supporting member at the deluxe level. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright. We'll see you right back here next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.